hoping you'll give every bit of your heart and soul that you gave to me to Kamala.
The Democratic Party uniting around Vice President Kamala Harris as the California native moves closer to clinching her party's nomination for president. According to the Associated Press, Harris has already secured more than 1,600 delegates so far. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. It certainly has been a historic day and a half in this country since President Biden stepped aside in the race. Shortly after the president's announcement yesterday, he endorsed Vice President Harris. And since that time, she's raised more than $80 million, setting a new presidential donation record. Many of Harris's Democratic colleagues have resoundingly voiced their support for her, including former Speaker Nancy Pelosi. This afternoon, Vice President Harris delivered her first speech as a presidential candidate to her campaign staff.
I have full faith that this team will be the reason we win in November.
And the day after dropping his re-election bid and while still recovering from COVID, President Biden called into that meeting today, reiterating his endorsement. But the top two Democrats in Congress, Senator Chuck Schumer and Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, stopped short of endorsing Harris. The Democratic Party announced today that it will choose its presidential nominee in a virtual vote that could happen as early as August 1st and before August 7th. Vice President Harris could soon become the first person to be placed at the top of a major party ticket without winning a primary since 1968. Fox 11's Laura Diaz spoke with voters in Los Angeles about having Harris as the Democratic nominee.
And we are going to win.
A minority woman is being president because she has the ability and is capable of doing whatever she has to do to make the United States better than what it is.
What I wish we would get away from is the speech about color. It should be about your character and what are you doing for our people.
From the streets of Crenshaw off the air.
Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.
To radio station KJLH in Inglewood on the air.
Enter stage left, Kamala Harris.
Come on.
Kamala Harris as presumptive Democratic nominee for president was all the talk.
Plot twist!
Plot twist.
Plot twist! Plot twist!
Popular radio DJ Tammy Mack fielded calls during her afternoon drive show. A cross-section of people calling in with opinions of Harris and her likely history-making run as president. The airwaves lighting up.
I am done with the Democratic Party. They need to learn to put the country and the people first.
Everywhere I went, a lot of chatter about this mysterious Zoom call. Thousands of women Zoomed in a movement called Win with Black Women. Our DJ and caller knew all about it.
Zoom call that happened with over 44,000 black women last night.
We have time for divisiveness. We have got to get her in there.
And that was Fox 11's Laura Diaz reporting for us tonight from Los Angeles. Kamala Harris is a California native, born and raised in the Bay Area. That's where she rose through the ranks as an elected leader. KTVU's Christian Cafton has a look back tonight at some of the defining moments that have helped to shape her career.
Vice President Kamala Harris has already made history as the nation's first woman vice president. Now, with President Biden's announcement he will not seek the nomination, Harris is mounting another history-making campaign to battle former President Donald Trump for the White House. The vice president grew up in Berkeley in the 1970s. Childhood friend Carol Porter says she and Harris were part of the plan to better integrate schools, busing together from the West Berkeley neighborhood where they lived.
And that was predominantly where black people lived, but we lived with a lot of immigrants and in a very multiracial, multicultural environment. In fact, Kamala calls me the other little girl on the bus.
She says she hopes the nation gets to know the woman she knows.
Kamala's always been confident, smart, thoughtful, empathetic, direct, gets stuff done woman who really cares about lifting people up.
The vice president also has deep ties across the bridge, having served as San Francisco's district attorney from 2004 to 2011. She then went on to serve as California's attorney general and as senator before joining Joe Biden as his vice president. Political science professor Jason McDaniel studies voting and urban politics with a special emphasis on race and gender issues. He says the vice president's background as a prosecutor will likely help her in the upcoming race.
So I think she is well positioned in that way. And I think Democrats see that as something that might appeal to more moderate voters. They give that sense of someone who is not as liberal, not as left as you might think someone might see someone who's a woman of color from California.
He says now Harris will look for a vice president who will balance the ticket and possibly help shore up one of the all-important battleground states.
That's why a lot of people are looking to some of the governors, Beshear of Kentucky, Shapiro of Pennsylvania, Cooper of North Carolina, all white men of various levels of experience. I think those are good choices, perhaps.
Less than 24 hours after President Biden stepped back and endorsed Harris, San Francisco politicians stepped up in front of City Hall, ready to defend the vice president from any and all attacks.
But we know the real Kamala Harris. It is our job to support and defend her record. It is our job to go out there and tell the story of the real Kamala Harris to the voters in those swing states.
While there's little doubt that California will vote for Harris in November, our political science professor says we may see her in the state for a major fundraiser, but she will likely spend most of the next 3 months in those battleground states, making her case to the American people. In San Francisco, Christian Cafton, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
And Arizona Senator Mark Kelly is on the short list of contenders who potentially could be chosen as Harris's running mate. Senator Kelly responded to the news about President Biden dropping out with a post on social media. He said, quote, that he couldn't be more confident that Vice President Harris is the right person to beat Trump. Kelly is a moderate, a former astronaut, and he's married to former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. Plus, he's from a key swing state. Expert pollster Mike Noble says Senator Kelly could be a perfect fit on the Democrats' presidential ticket.
Mark Kelly has fantastic numbers. Of all the elected officials in the entire state of Arizona, Mark Kelly has the best image among the electorate. We got 4 months left. I think there's going to be some more twists and turns from now until Election Day. So, buckle up, hold on, and, grab your popcorn.
Now, Arizona is one of 5 states with a resign to run law, meaning someone holding public office would have to resign that position before running for another office. However, the law does not affect federal office holders, so it wouldn't be applied to Senator Kelly if he decided to make a move. Republicans are weighing in on this dramatic shift for the Democratic Party. Although we're still months out from November's election, some GOP leaders are now asking President Biden to leave office immediately. A professor from Seattle University says some Republican strategists believe the president's timing of his announcement to drop out was planned weeks in advance.
There's been a scattered set of responses. There have been a lot of criticism saying that if Biden is unable to run, he should just leave the presidency and not be able to serve either. We also see people arguing that this is some sort of gamemanship, that he was planning on doing it beforehand, and that he just dropped out after the Republican convention in order to, as a giant head fake for the Republican Party.
The Republicans held their convention last week in Milwaukee, and the Democratic National Convention begins August 19th in Chicago. We turn now to a series of wildfires burning across the West. In Southern California, a fast-moving fire destroyed at least 3 homes and damaged 4 others in Riverside County. Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez spoke with a neighbor who believes kids playing with fireworks likely started that fire.
You can actually see where it started right there where the crime scene tape is.
And you saw how many kids?
3. Yeah, there were 3. One was on a bike, they had a backpack,
And they were lighting fireworks.
Yeah.
Right at the spot, flames erupted this weekend, quickly taking over one of the canyons south of downtown Riverside.
Then I hear a boom, and I look over, and it's just, there was flames everywhere on the ground, and instantly the wind just took it.
Riverside fire officials confirm the Haywarden fire destroyed 3 homes and damaged at least 4 structures.
The fire spread was rapid, so getting resources into the areas fast enough proved challenging because the fire was moving faster than we could catch up initially.
It happened so fast as it pushed up the ravine. Initially, their house didn't get touched. All the trees and stuff are burned, you can see, but we thought, oh my goodness, it made it. And then about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, all of a sudden, it just went up.
Looking at the damage of the burned out homes today, neighbors say they feel very sad for the people who lived here, but also very lucky.
It was just a God blessing for us yesterday, because if the wind would have been blowing right now towards us, that fire would have come this way.
And that was Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez reporting from Southern California. In Northern California, crews are working tonight to contain the Ridge Fire burning in Colusa and Lake counties. At least 800 firefighters are on this scene, along with 46 engines, 13 water tenders, 9 helicopters, and other air tankers. Crews are also battling 100-degree temperatures in this area. So far, the Ridge Fire has burned more than 2,700 acres, and it stands at 25% containment tonight. Crews in Washington are also battling a number of wildfires tonight. In Chelan County, the Pioneer Fire has grown to more than 30,000 acres. It started more than 6 weeks ago, but it has shown some explosive growth recently. Over the last week, the fire has scorched more than 11,000 acres. Crews do expect it will keep growing. More than 700 firefighters have been called in on this fire, which has remained at 14% containment all throughout this month. The North Cascades Highway has been shut down once again because of a wildfire burning in Okanogan County. The Easy Fire was started by lightning last week. It's burned 345 acres near Ross Lake, and so far there's 0% containment on the fire. The North Cascades Highway is closed between Granite Creek and Easy Pass Trailhead. Despite today's cooler temperatures, crews in this area have been facing dry and windy conditions. And over the weekend, several hiking trails and roads were shut down near Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest after 9 wildfires. New fires sparked in this area because of lightning. Officials posted this photo of smoke from the fires on social media. They're burning about 21 miles away from the town of Darrington. There's no word tonight on just how large those fires have grown. Dangerous winds and heavy rain whipped across a lake in Arizona. We'll take a look at the mad dash by dozens of boaters to try to get out of the water. Plus,
you know what Stuart Knight did when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? You know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned.
the director of the Secret Service testifies about the assassination attempt on former President Trump, why some lawmakers, including some from the West Coast, are suggesting she should step down.
All about the heat and heightened fire danger once again for much of the West. I'll have a look at what we can expect for the days ahead coming up.
In Washington, both of the state's U.S. senators today announced new funding for 3 projects aimed at restoring habitats for threatened salmon species. Those grants, which total $28 million, were awarded by NOAA's Transformational Habitat Restoration and Coastal Resilience Program. The senators say the money will go toward bringing back natural features such as log jams and river channels, which protect young salmon. The 3 projects are located in different waterways around the state. In Arizona, strong winds and rain from a monsoon storm triggered damaging waves at a popular lake yesterday, causing some boats there to capsize or take on water. The marine manager at Lake Pleasant says up to 50 boats were trying to come in during this storm that left the docks overwhelmed. It was a chaotic scene, as you can see from the video here. Many boaters were desperate for help to get out of the water. Some say weather is one variable to never underestimate.
By the time I made it over here, there was already the eye of the storm, and people were loading up right in the middle of the storm, and you can see what happens. You can be experienced as you want, but when it comes to Mother Nature, you only have a certain amount. But there are things you can look out for. Cut it early on the monsoon season.
The marine manager says the best piece of advice he can share is to be prepared and bring life jackets. And we move on here and stay in Arizona. The people of Surprise, Arizona were caught off guard by that severe weather last night. A massive dust storm from that monsoon swept across the city with the winds kicking up lots of dust. Thousands of people left without power as that storm moved through. The winds also pushed dust across roadways, creating major visibility problems for drivers in that area. In some parts of Texas, it was water, and a whole lot of it, that created dangerous conditions earlier today. This was the scene in Dallas as rain flooded lanes of one interstate, trapping at least 2 cars in the floodwaters. Somewhere between 1 and 4 inches of rain fell within a 3-hour window just this morning. All right, let's bring in our meteorologist, Rosemary Orozco, who is tracking our weather across the West, and we're starting to warm things up once again. I see that temperature in Arizona there.
Yes, Alex, that monsoonal moisture and all that activity continuing as we get into tomorrow. And yes, the heat is on. Phoenix this afternoon, 111 degrees. Taking a look at some of the highs from the afternoon. Las Vegas coming in at 112. The inland section of California, a hot one. Sacramento, the capital there of California, coming in above 100 degrees. And Redding, 111. Meanwhile, along the coastline, actually quite nice. Take a look at what happened in Portland this afternoon. 77 degrees, upper 60s reported in areas like Seattle, and Seattle still holding on to 68 degrees. City of San Francisco, 64, but you go 40 miles inland from San Francisco and it was 100 degrees this afternoon. So really, it's the inland areas that are baking. This trough here pattern going to remain in place and keep the Pacific Northwest very comfortable for the next few days. Meanwhile, this high pressure is strengthening in the direction of California, and that will keep the heat on for the next few days. In addition to that, the circulation around that high is what is drawing in some of that monsoonal moisture and the thunderstorms that we're seeing across not only the desert Southwest, but take a look at the Sierra crest of California and in Nevada. We've got thunderstorms there this afternoon, and even the possibility of some active weather coming into the Bay Area by Tuesday night into Wednesday. Now, this area over Arizona as well as New Mexico under flash flood watches, including areas here in near Albuquerque. That will continue until this evening and likely to be in place again for tomorrow. Meanwhile, over the west and areas like Las Vegas dealing with the excessive heat. That is going to continue for the next few days and into the Pacific Northwest. In addition to the heat, we've got that heightened fire danger having to do with the thunderstorms and the possibility of dry lightning. So here's a look at the forecast for tomorrow. There's the trough there holding on, keeping temperatures cool here. There's a look at all that moisture from areas of California into Nevada over towards Arizona and New Mexico, as well as Colorado. The next few days along the coast in San Francisco going to be quite nice, but you go inland, it's a hot one. We've got 90s for Denver. We've got above 110 for areas over Phoenix. Alex?
Rosemary, thank you. Los Angeles County is starting to see some progress in addressing the drug crisis. The Public Health Department said today overdose deaths declined from just over 3,200 in 2022 to just under 3,100 in 2023. This is the first time in 10 years the county has seen a dip in those numbers. Officials call it a step in the right direction after a 300% increase in overdose deaths over the last decade. Officials are crediting investments in substance use prevention, treatment, and harm reduction services. A handful of pizza franchises in the Las Vegas area are now being ordered to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. Investigators with the U.S. Department of Labor found the operators of 10 Blaze Pizza locations employed dozens of children to perform dangerous tasks and had them work more than allowed on school days. Officials learned that minors between the ages of 15 and 17 were asked to operate industrial pizza dough makers. A number of 15-year-olds were also asked to work more than 3 hours on school days. The owners of those restaurants must now pay $277,000 in civil penalties. During a hearing on Capitol Hill today, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle called on the director of the Secret Service to resign following the assassination attempt on former President Trump.
Look, I'm not questioning your judgment. I just don't think this is partisan. If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign.
Prominent California Democrat Ro Khanna was among the members of the House who called today for Kimberly Cheadle to step down as director of the Secret Service. Cheadle spent hours testifying in front of the House Oversight Committee today about the shooting at a Pennsylvania rally that wounded Trump and left an attendee dead. She called it, quote, the single greatest operational failure of the Secret Service in decades. And Cheadle was grilled about how the gunman slipped through the cracks after being flagged as suspicious.
Was anybody in the detail ordered to follow and stay with that suspicious person?
We are trying to verify the timelines of when those notifications were made to our personnel.
And despite those calls for her to leave her post, Cheadle repeatedly said today she does not intend to resign. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, millions of people were left feeling frustrated and helpless during last week's CrowdStrike outage. Tonight, we'll tell you about the tools one company here on the West Coast is now offering to help users get their operations back online. Also, Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles is full of so many memories of the late Kobe Bryant, how you could own a piece of memorabilia connected to the Hall of Famer. Microsoft has a new fix following last week's global tech outage. The Seattle-based software company released recovery tools to help IT administrators get operations back online. A CrowdStrike faulty security update crashed Windows systems all around the world on Friday, sending machines at many businesses that blue screen failure message. In Colorado, a sixth person has contracted bird flu after coming into contact with infected birds. The CDC says the patient is a co-worker of 5 poultry workers who also likely contracted bird flu while working directly with infected birds. The infected workers were killing or removing selected birds to control the potential spread of the bird flu. The CDC says a total of 10 human cases of bird flu have now been reported across the U.S. since April. Here's a reminder to bring extra water for your furry friends on those long, hot summer hikes. One pet owner near Montrose in Southern California found out the hard way when their dog suffered heat exposure on a trail in the Angeles National Forest. Thankfully, Montrose Search and Rescue soon arrived. They gave the pet some much-needed water and safely escorted the dog out of that canyon. The Los Angeles Dodgers are honoring the late, great Willie Mays at tonight's game between the Dodgers and the Giants. The Say Hey kid played most of his career with the Giants and hit 98 home runs against the Dodgers, more than he hit against any other team. Mays died last month at the age of 93. His son Michael is at tonight's game in L.A. Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James will be serving as the male flag bearer for the U.S. Olympic team. Warriors point guard Stephen Curry nominated him for that special role, and then in front of the entire U.S. basketball team announced that James was given the highly coveted honor.
We understand how much of an honor it is to be in that position, and I think LeBron's entire career, on and off the court, speak for itself as him being worthy of that honor.
No doubt about that. James called this, quote, an incredible honor to represent the United States on this global stage, especially in a moment that can bring the world together. The female U.S. flag bearer is expected to be announced on Tuesday. Kobe Bryant fans now have an opportunity to get their hands on a truly rare piece of memorabilia. The late Hall of Famer's locker was set to be destroyed during renovations at the arena, formerly known as Staples Center, back in 2018. TMZ has learned the locker was saved by a maintenance worker who realized it belonged to Bryant, and now that locker is set to hit the auction block, and no doubt we'll be getting a lot of bidders. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching, and another reminder before we go, you can stay up to date on stories developing across the West Coast at westcoastwrap.com. Have a great night.